The game we are playing right now is the game of consciousness and rising into higher states of consciousness. But what does it actually mean? Whenever I have done sacred ceremonies with sacred plants, all my experiences were coming through and from my higher self. And when we have experiences from the state of our higher self, then we notice that this state is one of neutrality. It is a state that doesn't carry any heavy emotions or heavy feelings, that is trapped in patterns or behaviors, but it's truly an observer that notices, that sees, but is not actually attached to that experience and identifies it. So what does it mean in that context? You see, when we reincarnate, only a tiny part of our soul enters our body. And why is that? Our soul, our consciousness is this huge source of light, this ball of energy that radiates differently for everyone. And each and everyone's soul has its own signature, its own unique blueprint that carries on through many lifetimes and only evolves from one level to the next. You can look at it as a school system. You're graduating from one class to go into the next one, into the higher level. And it's similar with our soul. Now, when we reincarnate, the part of our soul that actually comes into the physical body is that part that wants to graduate from a certain level to get into the next one. So that part of the soul comes in to clean out certain karmic imprints, play out karmic timelines, and also encounters different traumas that help them to evolve through these traumas along the way. The structure of our body and our cells and our molecules couldn't comprehend and carry actually the entirety of the power of our higher self, of our light. And that's why when we embark on the consciousness journey and we open ourselves up to more light, more and more parts of our higher self are actually able to enter, to penetrate, and our body can store it, because the more we clean out, the more space we create for those bigger parts of our higher self to come in. And that's what we refer to being in states of higher consciousness, meaning we are simply carrying more and more frequency of the true higher self, of our divine love and our truth. And you can imagine it like putting your fingers into a too high voltage. You might encounter a short circuit, and that's why we need to be prepared, and that's why this journey takes time. Going back to the example that I gave you of how I experienced all my ceremonies through the lenses of my higher self, now you may begin also to notice that when more parts of your higher selves come in, it will naturally bring you into a state of inner balance, into a state of equilibrium. You're going to live your life more out of divine truth and divine love, as those higher frequencies from your higher self are fully embodied within you. You see, we talk so much about love on this planet, yet we cannot truly comprehend divine love unless we have experienced it. And the more of our higher self can come into our body and stay there through our embodiment, meaning through the rooting into physical form, the more we can not just experience that, but the more also our energy activates and initiates those around us. Each soul comes from a different sphere, you may say from a different planetary constellation, and again carries its own gifts, frequencies, depending on their evolution and who they are based on their source. And I'm not speaking of the human source. So the game of consciousness is all about allowing more and more streams of this higher self of ours to come into our body and be firmly rooted within us, aka embodiment. That's why also our gifts, our spiritual gifts and our power can only come in slowly and slowly when we are ready, because the purification of the body needs to be done before that in layers, so that the body can actually hold this high voltage of frequency within us.